What is up, YouTube? Game Brain here, and today I will be doing a team analysis for the team I used to get to top 300 in the balanced Hackmons Lander. So at the time, it was number 256. Obviously, this is going to drop because ranks change real quick, but I wanted to do a quick team analysis because I really love this team, and I think it's something unique. And here's my ranking for proof purposes and ownership of account, but anyway. Let's actually get into the team, and there's a few things I want to go over. This team, first of all, it's the Ninja Meme Dream team, and the reason I call it that is because the whole goal of it is to just get Sidinja to sweep. And I just want to say this is not fully my original team. This is actually pretty heavily based, and by that I mean 4 out of 6 of the sets are based on a Smogon viability team that's brought up as an example. So I think there's a few key changes I made that make this team much more viable, but I just want to go over it and explain how you can use this team to also play balanced Hackmons, and the strengths, the weaknesses, and why each set is the way it is. I will have a pokey paste of this team down in the description if anybody wants to try it out for themselves, and especially if you're a beginner, I'll actually be making small notices in the video saying, hey, maybe you should change this if you're not that familiar with this team. Without further ado, though, I think I need to actually go in and go one by one to describe what each Pokemon does. And we're going to start with Sidinja. So Sidinja is the main win condition of the team, and the entire team is actually based around scouting what can kill Sidinja and then stopping it. In case you're not aware, why Sidinja is so powerful is because you have Sturdy into Endeavor. Basically how that works is you're 1 HP, no normal move can one-shot you because you have Sturdy, and you take your opponent down to 1 HP and then kill them. It gets a bit more complicated though. First of all, there's a lot of things in the balanced Hackmons meta that can kill Sidinja. Let's start with first simple thing, which is weather. The only thing Sidinja can directly block by itself, with Safety Cogs. Beyond that, there's a few other threats. You have Actual Status, which is blocked by Zygarde. I'll get into that when we talk about him. You have Hazards, which are blocked by Xerneas. And then you have Rocky Helmet, which isn't blocked by anything. And you also have moves like Moongeist Beam and Sunsteel Strike, which go through Sturdy, which isn't blocked by anything. And then you finally have abilities like Molt Breaker and Terravolt, which there's a decent amount of moves on the team, basically Core Enforcer, to get rid of them. And you may notice that this has Haze instead of Entrainment. That's one of the major changes I made, as Entrainment was one of the main ways this team was intended to deal with these abilities, but once again, I'll get into this later. So, let's look at Sidinja here. What is so great about this set, and why do we build a whole team around it? Well, Endeavor basically can land on anything that doesn't have Rocky Helmet or can kill you. So unless your opponent's Pokemon is specifically prepared to deal with Sidinja, Sidinja just automatically beats it. So that's a really big plus. I'll go over each move. Endeavor, obviously, bread and butter of this. You just want to land it, get them to 1 HP, finish off with Extreme Speed. The reason Pursuit is in here is because it can chase foes. So if you predict your opponent is going to switch out into, let's say, something that has a Rocky Helmet to eat your Extreme Speed, you can Pursuit and kill the Pokemon that's switching out. So that's a really positive aspect of this. Then we have Odor Sleuth. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. The only reason this move is on here is to beat Ghost types and to beat Transforms. So let's start with Ghost types. The main Ghost type you're going to be fighting is Garantina, probably normal form, not Origin. But the whole idea is if you predict that your opponent's going to switch into Garantina to take your Endeavor, you can just fire this move off and then be able to get a free Endeavor off next turn. So that's basically the set. Oh, when it comes to Transforms, so either Chansey or Blissey, the main idea is when they transform, they copy everything except your HP. That means if you Odor Sleuth, you can Endeavor them to 1 HP and then kill them they can't do that to you because you're already at 1 HP. So this also helps out beat any possible transforms coming in to take care of your Sidinja. So knowing this in mind, we need to create a team that can not only scout out the possible threats for Sidinja, but also get rid of them to create the ideal scenario, the dream meme, where Sidinja just sweeps. And that's why we have Zygarde. Zygarde is a key component of this team. And we have, well, Zygarde isn't necessarily the key component, it's Misty Surge. So Misty Surge instantly brings in Misty Terrain upon switch in, which gets rid of any status move. Well, it doesn't get rid of any status move, it prevents status moves from hitting something. So the whole idea is Zygarde is one of the most, I want to say, defensive mons on the team, even though every single Pokemon on this team is meant to be played defensively except Sidinja. So the whole idea is you keep Zygarde healthy and you keep him safe. Having Misty Surge constantly up is good support for your entire team, not just your Sidinja. So what this ends up meaning is you want to keep, that's why we have Recover. And that's the reason for Lefties and Recover. They're both there to keep this support Pokemon healthy. Stealth Rock is important because Stealth Rock is one, in the mirror matchup, and I mean a Sidinja team mirror, Stealth Rock is one of your main ways to win the mirror, and in general, in a heavy switch game, get chip damage in every time. And as you'll see, every Pokemon we have has a set limit and needs all other moves it has, so this is the only slot we can realistically stick Stealth Rock in, sadly. Then you have Core Enforcer. Core Enforcer is a very interesting move. So Core Enforcer, basically, if your opponent moves first and then you hit them with it, their ability is nullified. That stops a lot of things. That beats Prankster, that beats Contrary, that even beats Sturdy Sidinja, once again in the mirror matchup. That can also kill Primal Weather. And in case you're wondering for the interaction, if Primal Weather is going on, let's say your opponent has, I don't know, a Kyogre with, obviously, let's say Desolate Land, why not? I don't know why they would be running that. But point is, if your opponent has Primal Weather and you Core Enforcer their ability, the weather disappears. So that means the few teams that still run Primal Weather are directly countered by just this move. Furthermore, this is a pretty okay attack to just throw out anyway, because you never know what abilities. This also nullifies Magic Bounce, right? You can throw this out into a Magic Bounce Pokemon, and then just fire off your rocks. And there's nothing your opponent can do about it, because it takes a turn for them to switch out and switch back in the Pokemon with Magic Bounce. So this move in general is a really powerful move, even though it gets 50% less effectiveness due to Misty Terrain. It is still essential, as it's a main way to slow down the game, bait out your opponent's sets, figure out what's going on in order to achieve your win condition. And the same thing is U-Turn. U-Turn is there for a few reasons. First of all, it's a fantastic move. You switch after your opponent every single time. That's insane. Second of all, you can switch out of traps. Third of all, another use is if you're suspecting your opponent has Rocky Helmet, you can U-Turn into it. And I just want to talk about this right now. Understanding if your opponent's items and moves. The information game is the first, I want to say, at least 10 turns, and it can go from like 10 to like 50 turns in extreme situations, where you're just trying to read your opponent's sets and figure out what he has in order to ensure Sidinja can sweep. So U-Turn and Core Enforcer are both key components of that. Generally, play this defensively. Misty Surge can be used aggressively, but not in this case. Losing Zygarde is really bad. And this is a really key component to keeping Sidinja and your team in a healthy shape. So hand in hand with Zygarde, we have Xerneas. And I found myself, while playing this team, switching a lot between them. So the reason Xerneas is so interesting is because for me, he was my only way to deal with hazards. And I'm going to mention it right now. Another thing I changed about this team is that I replaced Yveltal's Rapid Spin with Core Enforcer. I'll talk a bit more about it when I get into Yveltal himself. But yeah, having no Rapid Spin on Yveltal just let me play around Xerneas. And I think Rapid Spin is bad anyway. I'm gonna mention this right now. If you know your opponent has Rapid Spin, you can switch in Sedinja and it instantly nullifies the move. So I think Magic Bounce in general, this is the only slot that can afford to have Magic Bounce. So that was a key part. Reason we run Xerneas is because of the high base special attack and Moonblast. There's a lot of dragons in the meta. You're guaranteed to fight at least one dragon per team, sometimes two, sometimes three, in rare cases more than that. But the point is, on average, you'll be facing 2 to 3 dragons a game. And just having that stab Moonblast with high special attack is pretty incredible and can deal with a lot of threats. Paired with Magic Bounce and Defog also is a way to deal with hazards. Once again, Xerneas plays a more aggressive role definitely than Zygarde, but at least for me, it was my main way to deal with hazards. And this is where I'm gonna come in and say, if you're a beginner or you're kind of unexperienced with the format and you're not so sure about how hazards work, I would definitely suggest getting rid of Core Enforcer and putting Rapid Spin back on this. But once you get more familiar with the team, it is definitely possible to play around hazards just by using Xerneas. Oh, excuse me, I also forgot to explain something about Sedinja, which is the EV spread. So the EV spread, reason we run minus speed is because Sedinja can get Core Enforcered. So you want Sedinja to move after your opponent, so you just want to make it as slow as possible so Core Enforcer can't hit you. Sorry, back to Xerneas. So that's generally the idea. Spectral Thief is there to stop setup. There's nothing more to say about that. Anything except the normal type can be hit. You have Moonblast to stop dragons and be a threat, an actual threat that opponent has to switch out of. Recover with lefties keeps you healthy, as you are also a way to deal with hazards, and Magic Bounce Defog deals with hazards. I would say it also deals with status, but you should be playing around Misty Search in a way where you should rarely need a Magic Bounce status. So, now we get, I'll leave Kyogre and Yveltal for last, by the way. Now we get into Registeel. Important change I made to Registeel, entrainment changed to Haze. So here's the problem. This team struggles with one main thing, and that's why entrainment had to go. Core Enforcer can get rid of abilities, just not instantly. But we're running so bulky Pokemon that they can usually live a hit. Let's say from something that's contrary, or a Magic Bounce, or... The entrainment wouldn't... Yeah. The point is, with Haze though, that's not... Haze stops something this team can't beat. A normal type with boosted stats. And that can be either like Mold Breaker Regigigas, right? It can be contrary Regigigas that has Moongeist Beam. It can be Arceus. Any normal type that has Haze, any normal type that has Setup cannot be hit by Spectral Thief. So what ended up happening is when at least my 2 out of the 3 of my losses, I got really early, ended up being to me just getting destroyed by something I couldn't kill. Like, the Regigigas came in, hit a V-Create, right? I entrainment it gets Prankster. Wow, it still has Sunsteel Strike and beats everything on my team. So there was really no way to play around that. I can't Spectral Thief, right? So I decided to get rid of entrainment and add in Haze. So that's the job of Haze. The job of Haze is to simply be there to get rid of stats. Also, it's a fantastic PP stall move. If you want Registeel to just stay in for a turn, just Haze. 48 PP, fantastic. I actually, there's a lot of turns where I would stay in expecting a U-turn. It's like, hey, I know my opponent's going to U-turn. What do? Oh, I just Haze. And it's just kind of a throwaway turn, right? So Rocky Helmet is there. I mean, it's there for Sedinja as well, but this team has a lot of ways with Core Enforcer and Rocks to deal with Sedinja. Rocky Helmet is also there for physical attackers. Generally, if you see, Kyurem, like Zekrom Kyurem, just tanks everything. If you see, Diancie isn't run that much anymore, but even if you see Diancie, this just tanks it, right? Rayquaza, this tanks it. You can switch this Pokemon into any physical attacker, and you know you're going to live. 100% going to live. So because of that, it just allows for better play in a sense. You can just switch it in, and then you know your opponent is forced to switch out. Encore is there to trap things, in the sense of, let's say somebody uses Sunsteel. Okay, First scenario, somebody uses Sunsteel Strike. You can trap them in, meaning they take Rocky Helmet damage and you take no damage every turn. Second scenario, a Pokemon with a move that can hit your Shedinja uses a move that doesn't hit Shedinja. You anchor them, you switch in Shedinja, instant switch out for your opponent. And if they don't have anything to switch into, free Endeavor, Extreme Speed, done. So because of that, Anchor is a really good tool to ensure you get your Shedinja victory. Destiny Bond is a backup tool. I didn't find myself using that a lot, ironically, just in case there's something you can't deal with. This team does account for everything in the meta the way I changed it, but just in case something gets out of hand, you can always Destiny Bond and take it down with you. Prankster is there to ensure everything gets priority. Recover. Recover is there to keep yourself healthy, as you don't have built-in lefties, so there needs to be some way for this to tank back up. Generally, Registeel is played as a flat wall. You play Registeel to stop setup, either late game to bring the Shedinja win condition in for free, or to just stall. And that's why Haze, in general, and Encore in this set works well within itself, because with entrainment it means you actively have to do something that affects the game every turn, which actually in a stall situation isn't good. However, by having Haze, you can literally choose to do nothing, which sometimes can be more valuable than giving your opponent Prankster. Finally, we move on to Yveltal and Kyogre. Yveltal and Kyogre are mirrored sets, by the way. They're the exact same set, same exact EV. Actually, Yveltal is. I'll talk about the Yveltal EV spread, but the EV spread aren't the same, but moves, ability, Assault Vest. So this is called Regen Vest. The regen. I'll start off with Kyogre, which is the base Regen Vest, and then I'll move on to Yveltal. The reason Regen Vest is good, you tank hits, and then you just heal up by switching. This Pokemon, especially Kyogre, is incredibly tanky, and it can just take so much. Let's start with moves. Core Enforcer, literally same use as Zygarde, helps with scouting, blah blah blah. Won't get exactly the reason Zygarde has it. Spectral Thief. Spectral Thief stops setup. This is a safer way to stop setup than Xerneas because you can usually tank more hits, and then this becomes a major threat. U-Turn, slightly different reason than Zygarde actually. It's less of a scouting tool and like less escape trap tool, even though it does help, and more of, hey, U-turn out of there because good synergy with Regenerator, and U-turn's also just a good move. So Revelation Dance is the last move in there, and Revelation Dance is a good stab move, a good offensive choice, and you may ask, oh, why don't you run Steam Eruption, Scald, Origin Pulse, I don't know what. Well, first you want to run something with 100% accuracy because you don't want to get messed up by bad RNG. Second of all, you run Revelation Dance over Steam Eruption because of normalized ghost types. Revelation Dance does not get affected by Normalize, or anything that would affect your ability, because the type varies based on the user's primary type. What that means is the move is coded into the game as a normal type move. However, the type is basically determined when you're using the move. So Normalize can't stop this. And that's more important on Yveltal, who can get a Dark Revelation Dance off. But the general idea is strong stab, get rid of abilities and scout, get rid of setup, get out of there and heal up. This set is incredibly bulky and is your main way to scout and threaten your opponent. And the reason I'm saying Kyogre is the main way is because Yveltal is the same logic, but executed differently. So, the reason Yveltal runs Assault Vest Regen is because it wants to be a threat, but it won't tank up as many hits as Kyogre. It has a weaker defensive spread. And that means Yveltal sure is tanky, but you also need to play it in a situation where normal Yveltal would do fine. Spectral Thief is there for the same reason, as always, stop setup. Revelation Dance comes in this time as a very viable way to kill normalized ghosts. This is your primary tool against that threat. Revelation Dance is also an incredibly powerful stab move. So, U-turn, It's actually the same reason for Kyogre. Good synergy to switch after your opponent and still heal if you're trying to bait out an opponent's move, see what's going on. So, Core Enforcer. The reason I wanted to run... Okay, Yveltal originally had Rapid Spin off the set I told you I got this from. And I disagree with that. I think if you're a good player, you can definitely play around a single remover for hazards, and I ended up doing that, and I think it feels really good. Since you can magic bounce the hazards in, you should never get to a situation where you need a second removal for hazards if you have magic bounce and removal already. Plus, Rapid Spin is a terrible removal, and I disagree with it anyway. But you can't run Defog on here because you're locked in by Vest. So I decided to change into Core Enforcer, and that's actually to threaten more Pokemon. This was an aggressive choice, ironically. Even though this team is fully played defensively, both Kyogre and Yveltal Vest Pokemon, it's kind of bait and switch and slowly chip damage while you're taking no damage. I wanted to add that in as an aggressive option to deal with abilities of certain Pokemon. I still kept the speed. Excuse me. And I just think this is it's a better choice. Core Enforcer is a fantastic move by itself. And if you just have a really great move, you have an empty move slot basically, you can just stick it on there. As I said earlier, if you are a beginner, you don't feel comfortable with a single way to deal with hazards, feel free to put in Rapid Spin. But this is just a tech choice. Especially there was heavy use of dragons in my ladder climbing. Like, every game, like, I want to say I saw more like 3 to 4 dragon teams than 2 to 3 dragons, honestly. There's just too much dragon usage right now, so I do feel like Core Enforcer is a better tech. But this does come down to opinion, and Regen Vest in general is a very stally playstyle, and the sets should be made. You can actually change the sets a bit more, and completely get rid of Core Enforcer in favor of a hard stab move, like get Revelation Dance off, and put Rapid Spin there, and then just get a really hard stab move in the place of Core Enforcer. So it's just I prefer more slow and stally playstyle where I'm just baiting out information. I do think Core Enforcer is better for the information game, and if that's how you wish to play this team like I did, and that's how I recommend you play it, I do think Core Enforcer is the best choice. So, to give an overall talk about the team, usual leads is either Zygarde or Xerneas. Most safe choices, and maybe switch to Registeel real quick. Yveltal, Kyogre are your main ways of baiting out information. Main ways of figuring out your opponent's set. Specifically, Kyogre has basically no true counter. In case of knockoff, that's something I personally found pretty bad. Make Kyogre take the knockoff. Not even joking. Just have Kyogre take the knockoff. Because you still have Regenerator. Kyogre's base stats are also pretty good. So, and then just make Yveltal just tank more special moves. You also have Registeel for tanking. So you still keep Regenerator. So the Vest isn't as important. And the reason you make Kyogre take the knockoff instead of Yveltal is because Yveltal has worse defenses. So you can potentially lose Yveltal if he doesn't have the Vest. And just always switch in the Kyogre and the threat of a knockoff. Overall, how I personally enjoy playing this team is scouting. I want to make sure I basically know my opponent's whole sets, or as close to their whole sets as possible before I start making even the smallest aggressive choice. I will actually be putting up a video tomorrow of one of the games they played that I found to be very interesting. But you'll have to stay tuned for that. Again, I'll have a Pokepaste of the team below. If you have any questions on how to play this team, and if there's something you think I didn't explain properly, just feel free to leave a comment and I'll respond to it. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'm pretty happy that I finally got a decent placement on a ladder again. I haven't been playing too much Pokemon recently, but I just love this team. This team made me just fall in love with this format again, like I was back in Gen 6. So, I don't know. I'll try out a few more teams. I have a few ideas of my own. But I think this team is just fantastic, and I never thought a simple team from a Smoke on Viability forum could actually end up being one of my favorite teams ever. I actually just enjoy it so much. Anyway, thank you everybody for watching, and I'll see you next time.